Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another chapter, thank you so much for giving me a listen. If you love the show, drop me a review over on your favorite podcast app or become a patron, patreon.com/oldmanbrad. So the Fantasia International Film Festival is starting to come to a close. It ran in Montreal from July 16th until August 3rd, and I'm breaking my recap up into two parts. I did remote coverage for the Fantasia International Film Festival. If you follow me on TikTok or on Instagram, I've been posting quick, short little spoiler-free reviews, like quick thoughts of the films that I've been watching as part of the festival. And now I'm going to recap the films that I watched. I'm going to break it up into two chunks because I think there were 15 films, I believe it was, that I watched. So I'm going to kind of break it up half and half. I still have a couple that I need to watch, a couple screeners that I'm hopefully going to get for part two. But before we dive into all things Fantasia, if you're in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the third Friday of the month. I am so excited for our August screening. On August 15th at 10 p.m., we're going to be screening the original The Toxic Avenger from Troma Pictures. Just 2 weeks before the new Toxic Avenger comes out. I'm so excited to be able to kind of coincide with that. Come see the original before you go see the new one 2 weeks later. But come out August 15th, 10 p.m., and let's watch a movie together. Let's start talking the Fantasia International Film Festival. So like I said, it runs from July 16th until August 3rd. You heard previously, I kind of did a kickoff episode where I did my top 5 that I want to see. I saw most of them. 2 of them I haven't been able to get screeners for, unfortunately, and that is Queens of the Dead and the new Old Time Radio short film. Maybe by part 2, I'll be able to see those. I don't know. We'll see. But all the other ones I was able to see, and we're going to kind of break down, go through the films I saw. I'm going to try to keep my chat on all the films very spoiler-free. Make sure to follow TikTok, Instagram for those quick short reviews. Also follow me on Letterboxd. I post my quick reviews over there as well. Just look for Old Man Brad on Letterboxd. But we're going to kick things off with the first film I watched, and that is Hold the Fort. I know I already had an episode because I talked to the director, a couple stars of the film, the producer, and gave you my quick thoughts on that film. That's the first one I watched for the film festival and absolutely loved it. It was just a fun time, absolute blast with the movie. Thought it was hilarious from beginning to end of this HOA that is defending the neighborhood from demons that kind of come out of a hellmouth. And it's variations of evil. Let's just say that. Variations of evil that they're protecting them from. It is just a funny movie that you definitely need to watch for. Hopefully it's coming out sometime later this year. But go back and listen to my interview with William Bagley and the crew. It was a good chat. I kind of wish I had more time. I'm hoping we can bring them on the show when it releases out, have a little more discussion, a little more behind the scenes of it. But Hold the Fort, that is the first one I watched. It had its world premiere at the Fantasia International Film Festival on July 16th. Definite recommend. My next one is a Korean horror film called Noise. It had a North American premiere on 7/17. And between Hold the Fort and Noise, these are my top 2 films that I've watched as part of the festival thus far. This movie was so good. Directed by Kim Soo-jin, Noise is about a woman who is deaf, who her sister disappears out of this apartment complex place where she lives. Her sister was kind of going crazy about these noises and things happening in this building. It just spirals. The more you find out as you dig deeper into this complex, to the people that live there. There are some crazies there. I don't want to dig too far because I'm going to give things away. And that is the last thing. You should go into Noise as blind as possible. It does a great job setting up atmosphere. It uses sound very well, as well as the lack of sound, since she takes off hearing aids and it goes silent. It really heightens the creep factor. I was in for this movie beginning to end. Absolutely loved it. This one might just hold the fort as my favorite watch for the Fantasia International Film Festival. But watch for Noise coming soon. It was so, so good. Right, the next watch I had was for a film called Sweetness. It played on July 19th. This was its Canadian premiere. It's written and directed by Emma Higgins and stars Kate Hallett. And Sweetness was an interesting film. It at first, I wasn't sure what I would think of it. And it's this naive teenager who's obsessed with this pop star. And then when something happens, there's an accident, she thinks she's doing good. This pop star ends up at her house, and it kind of turns into this Misery-esque film. And every decision that she makes, thinking she's either helping or doing good, or she's going to run this situation, she's going to take care of things, she digs herself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole that she ultimately can't get out. Things happen, people die, stuff gets dark, but this movie was very enjoyable. Kate Hallett, fantastic as this obsessed teen. And honestly, at first, like I said, I wasn't sure what I would think of it, because the way it starts out, I was like, okay, what direction is this movie going to take? Is it going to be this really teen pop star? I didn't fully know. And then as things start to spiral out of control, basically, I found myself, I think I got hooked more and more as it went. And in the end, I really, really enjoyed Sweetness and would definitely recommend checking out. So watch for Sweetness coming. So my next watch, it was kind of funny how this one came. I sent out a request for a screener for one movie, and the company sent me this one, but I'll watch it, and it's like a bonus movie, which, you know what? Great. More movies to watch. The more I can cover, the more I can talk about. And it's a film called A Grand Mockery. This played on July 20th. It was its international premiere. This was written and directed by Adam C. Briggs and Sam Dixon. It stars Sam Dixon. And this is a very interesting experimental film. It follows this character, Josie, who, I mean, he seemingly seems like a normal type of guy. He works at a theater. This is the odd part. He hangs out at a graveyard talking to people, and he drinks red wine out of a coffee mug. Okay, fine. He's a quirky little guy. This movie was shot on Super 8 and makes the movie really feel like an old 70s, 80s kind of feel to it. At first, you're just kind of following him along in these discussions he has with people, hanging out at the cemetery, talking to the people who are laid to rest, drinking his wine, and just, seemingly just going through life. It's I'd probably almost say halfway through. This movie takes a crazy turn, and he seems to be losing grip on reality. We start to take like almost a psychedelic ride that you just don't want to look away. You want to keep watching to see what happens to him, to see where this is going. In the end, like, it's one of those, I don't know if I'll watch it again, but it was an interesting film to take a journey through. It is a journey for sure that is odd, weird. There's some pieces of it I don't know if I fully understood, but it's one of those films that I have to tell you that if you get the chance, you just kind of have to watch it to experience it. And that's going to happen with the next few films that I have. Well, besides one other one, besides my next one, there are two other films I'm going to talk about today that I feel like you just need to experience. They're off-the-cuff, odd movies that were very interesting, and I'll throw them out there as movies that you need to experience, you need to see. And A Grand Mockery is one of them. It is one that you just need to check out if you get a chance. Next on the list is an animated film, not only an animated film, a stop motion animated film. And stop motion animation is some of my favorite style of animation. I always love the character designs, everything else. But I Am Frankelda played on July 20th, the North American premiere. You can very much see an influence of, say Tim Burton, Henry Selick, Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, any of those from Leica Studios, such as Kubo and other said films. You can see some influence there, especially in the character designs of this movie. I love stop motion animated films. This one, the characters looked amazing. I loved all of their designs of the characters. It did seem like a mix animation wise of like the old Racken and Bass animated shows, Rudolph and all those, and Leica Studios. It was very rough around the edges as far as the animation goes, maybe not as smooth as something like Leica Studios, but still looked great. Some of the story gets a little lost a little bit, especially at the beginning, because there's a lot going on setting up a story at the beginning. And then we kind of jump forward in time to later on. And I will say there's this one character, he's like the king, I guess, of It's a Land of Spooks. So he's kind of like their king, but when we get to see him years later, it's almost like these elements are breaking out of him. So part of him is a cloud and it's always moving around. Part seems like water and other pieces. The character looks stunning and amazing. And the way it just moves around constantly. The way they live is these spooky songs kind of keep them alive. The fear keeps them going. And the main bad guy is trying to take over. His songs aren't as good because he wants to rule this area. I don't want to give much more than that away. They bring someone from the real world in to do these songs, and there's big songs, there's big animated sequences. It honestly just looked beautiful. Directed by Arturo Ambrose and Roy Ambrose. Even though it was a little rough in the beginning, it was a little slow go, but once it finally got going and we got moving with the story and it got bigger, more elaborate, more of these characters and animation and everything else, it turned out to be fantastic. And it sits up there with those Leica movies, Henry Selick movies, Tim Burton movies. This is honestly a film that once it's released and it hits Blu-ray, I will buy a copy of this film to have it on the shelf with all these other movies that I have, because it was, for a stop motion animated film, it was great. All right, next up, my next two, like I said with the Grand Mockery, my next two, they're movies that I feel like you need to experience because of how wild they kind of go. First up is Every Heavy Thing. This is one on my anticipated list, movies I wanted to see, played on July 21st. It was its world premiere, written and directed by Mickey Reese. And this is a film about our character Joe, who sees a murder, and the killer basically kind of frames him into being his accomplice, letting him live and telling him, he'll always be watching. Do not tell anybody what happened. Do not say anything. I'll always be there. I will know. And if you do, you're done. It ultimately kind of starts out, it's a mix of Italian giallo, the way it's shot, colors, cinematography, the killer almost like a giallo-esque killer. And then the more we kind of spiral down with Joe and his always wondering if he's being watched by who, where, what can he say? He wants to tell people. It kind of turns into this psychotic trip, and it has dark comedy mixed in. It gets very trippy through the movie, just the way colors happen, cuts, some scenes are loud and can be a little much, a bit over the top, but in the end I loved this psychedelic crazy mental breakdown that we're watching this man have after he witnesses this murder and he's trying to get through whatever he needs to get through, whether, he just wants to tell somebody and in this whole charade. And just like a Grand Mockery, every heavy thing is one that needs to be experienced, needs to be watched. This one I liked more than a Grand Mockery, but this one, Every Heavy Thing, is one I definitely recommend. It's not going to be for everyone. Grand Mockery, Every Heavy Thing, and the next one, Lucid, they're not going to be for everyone because they're very odd films. Every Heavy Thing, probably my favorite of those three, would highly recommend. I love the influence giallo that is thrown into this movie, and then the psychotic trip as you see him spiral down, the way it's shot, the way it's colored, everything else. I recommend Every Heavy Thing. Watch for that one coming out. Next on the list is another kind of psychedelic trip, and that is a film called Lucid. This is written and directed by Deanna Milligan and Ramsey Fendel. And this is an art student in the 90s. This is why I wanted to see it. I went to art school in the 90s. I went from 1993 to 1997. I went to art school. I went for illustration. This movie deals with like the fine arts kids. I always thought the fine arts kids were kind of weird, but that's a whole different thing, in life. Watching this with some of these fine arts kids, I was like, oh, some of those fine arts kids that I knew in 90s in art school were kind of like this. This just kind of hits a little bit. Great soundtrack. This mid-90s kind of independent soundtrack that it has. Absolutely love the music in this. It's about this art student. She's in the middle of a creative block. She's like, what can I do to get out of this? And then some friends she knows says, you should go to this person and basically get a drug. And it's called Lucid. I mean, when you think of it, it's kind of maybe it's like acid or a psychedelic drug, something like that. And from there, I mean, we get sent on one wild ride full of bright colors, dark imagery, hellish moments, leading to her ultimate final creation. The film itself just feels like an experimental art piece in its own right, and that's a good thing because you are following this girl in art school trying to figure out her voice, her place, her style, taking this trip with her through it. This whole film feels like the directors were kind of painting their own art piece in this film. I know film is art, but the way this is done, it feels like its own experimental art piece. Someone who's gone through art school, I've had creative blocks. I've had teachers who didn't like my style and honestly wanted to change my style, but I refused to change my style because that is what kind of set me to be me. But anyway, definitely recommend this wild ride of Lucid. It's another one just like a Grand Mockery, one that I feel like you just need to experience. You need to take this ride. You need to take this drug-filled, crazy, psychedelic ride with this girl through art school and see where you end up in the end. So watch for Lucid. All right, so the last one I'm going to talk about today in part one of my Fantasia International Film Festival recap is a short film. It's the only short film I've watched thus far as part of the festival. It was fabulous. It is a short film called Shrimp Fried Rice. It had its world premiere on July 28th at Fantasia. I don't want to give much away of the story because that's kind of what really sets it to just be hilarious. This short film is so funny. I've watched it 3 times now. I had to show my wife. I was like, you need to see this short film because it is so funny. We watched it. She laughed. It's written by Dylan Punn and Michael Turk and directed by Dylan Punn. And it is about a chef with an ego. I mean, he is the creator of shrimp fried rice. He makes the best shrimp fried rice. He enters a cooking competition against his biggest rival to see who can end up on top. So that's the best I can say, because if I tell you anything else that goes on, it will ruin the short. You need to go in blind, because when you find out more of the characters and the story, it's just so funny. It's got raunchy language, it's got hilarious jokes, and just the setup to the end, I was laughing the entire way through. See if you can find the short film Shrimp Fried Rice, because it is highly recommended, and try not to look up anything really about it so you don't get ruined, because it's the concept alone of the characters that made it even better. So I went in completely blind. I was like, you know what? Let's check this one out. And I'm glad I knew nothing about it going in, because it just made it that much better. Well, those are the films for part 1 of my Fantasia International Film Festival recap. So we'll go through Hold the Fort, Noise. Those are my top 2 out of everything I've watched as part of Fantasia. Sweetness, A Grand Mockery, I Am Frankelda, Everything, Lucid, and Shrimp Fried Rice. Make sure you keep it right here. Subscribe to the show, as I will be bringing you my Fantasia International Film Festival watches for part 2. I have another 6 or 7 films to talk about on there. So thankful to be able to cover this film festival. It was an absolute blast. I've seen some great movies. These are all movies that you should watch for in one way or another. Some are definite high recommends you definitely need to see, like Hold the Fort, Noise, I Am Frankelda if you love stop motion animation, Shrimp Fried Rice, and then ones that just need to be experienced, like A Grand Mockery, Everything, Lucid. I have not watched a bad film yet, or a film that I disliked. They have all been very enjoyable. I've been loving going through this journey of film. Hopefully, in the future, I can go out there. I've been talking to a friend of mine to try to get out there next year. Fingers crossed that it can happen. Just make sure you subscribe so you don't miss part 2, as well as any other episode that I bring out over here at Old Man Brad. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.